Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing my out-of-box review for the HGUC Zaku 2 FS Garma Zabi Custom. As I said in the unboxing, there's two reasons why I wanted to review this kit for you guys. One is just because I know that you guys appreciate seeing some reviews of some older kits every now and then. So, you know, this is an older kit. This is a very cheap HG, so if you're looking for, maybe you want to pick up a kit for cheap, this may be a kit that maybe you're looking at. It's one of the cheapest in the HGUC line. So we'll be taking a look at it for that reason, just for anyone who's interested in the kit. We'll also be taking a look at this because what I want to do here in this review is compare this with the new HG Zaku kits, an HG Zaku kit from Thunderbolt and an HG Zaku kit from Gundam The Origin. And I just want to give a little bit of a comparison and see how far the technology has progressed in the 14 years, almost 15 years since this kit was released in 2002. So that was not the first or the last version of this kit. I mean, this is the basic Zaku kit that we had in a few different versions in the HGUC line, but for this particular version, it's molded in these colors here, and a little bit different headpiece and a little bit different heat hawk to reflect this being the Garma Zabi Custom. Now, as you can see, those colors are going to be very unique about this kit. It almost gives it like a real type look. Like in the old 80s MSV kits, we had some of those real type kits that had some really interesting colors like this. And this is going to be very similar, very MSV looking in terms of its molded colors here. Now, if you aren't a fan of the colors, of course you can always paint this kit or pick up one of the other different versions of it. But I really quite like these colors, so I'm pretty happy with this. The other thing, with this being an older kit, obviously the articulation is not going to be as good as a new kit. The seam lines, it is going to have quite a lot of those. In terms of just molded details, it's going to be very plain on this kit. It's going to be, you know, almost totally without details, except for a little bit there on the backpack, a little bit on the forearms, has like one panel line on the forearms. The head obviously has these small little Vulcans on the top of the head, and that's pretty much going to be it for molded details. These parts are, I mean, this is the kind of kit for if you're the kind of person that doesn't like a lot of details, you like that really old school look of just having like big flat kind of plain armor pieces that actually I think look really good when they're painted up, either with shading or without. I mean, you can stylize them in a lot of different ways. Or if you're the kind of person that likes to go in and add a lot of details by scribing and chiseling and adding plot plate and all of that, it's a great kit for you because it's a great big clean canvas for you to work with, and the kit's cheap, so you know, if you mess up, you know, not a whole lot of loss there. So I think there is definitely still a lot of value in these older HG kits. So let's go ahead and take a look at the articulation for these stickers. If you'll remember correctly, it has very few, which is definitely one advantage that this has over a lot of newer HGs. One for the mono eye there, and then 4 for the caps on the elbows inside and outside on both arms. The knees though don't have anything, so those are just going to be there in brown. So for the articulation, the mono eye is able to move side to side, but unlike newer kits where we have a switch underneath the head, for this you basically have to take off the top of the head, and that's easier said than done. It's not really designed in a good way to be able to take off the top of the head very easily. As you can see, the head is just mounted on there by a ball joint. I did forget to mention this in the unboxing, that the energy cables are like a softer plastic, not quite as soft as polycap material, but they are in a flexible plastic. These ones here on the head and the legs are not really meant to bend, but the ones going around the middle section, those were just like straight. So this bend here is actually a result of how you have to bend them in order to make it into this right pose. Now, I am a little bit worried about over time if that is going to hold or if that is eventually going to, you know, get weak and break. I don't think so. I think it's going to be okay, and that is one thing that I do wish that they would incorporate into the newer kits, because in the newer HG Zaku kits, we just have like some kinks in this where when you bend it, it doesn't really look quite great. It looks okay just because you don't really notice it that much, but if you do look at it closely, it doesn't really look good. So, I mean, pros and cons here with that tubing there. The head articulation is going to be side to side. Overall, the head just has a much like kind of larger, more old school look to it. Not going to really be able to look up or down at all. So really rotating side to side is going to be your only options. It did have a safety flag on the back of the commander fin here on the top. I just sanded that down. We are going to have a seam line, of course, here on this shoulder armor. The arm articulation though is pretty nice though. You can see it's going to come up that far. This shoulder armor is kind of running into the head though, but we are able to get it totally 90 degrees perpendicular. We are going to have a rotation there. A bend, it's going to be just about 90 degrees there at the elbow. That's pretty much going to be it. The wrist is just on a ball joint. It's not really going to be a whole lot in terms of articulation there. More seam lines on the forearm, on the front. It's two green parts slapped together. That's, like I said, the only molded detail is like these panel lines there on the forearm. On the back, a seam line here as well on that brown part. It's going to be pretty egregious, but it shouldn't be too hard to get rid of that. You will have to do some modifying to be able to make the parts fit onto each other without having to mask if you want to paint them separately. The arm, actually the shoulder has a really nice gimmick here, how the shoulders are able to come out. That's even kind of like better than the gimmicks that we have for the shoulders nowadays. It's maybe not quite as, it doesn't look quite as nice, but the function of that I think functions even better than newer kits, so that's really quite nice. In terms of the waist articulation though, this is going to be a huge drawback, that this is not able to move in any way, shape or form. If you remember correctly from the unboxing, the top part and the middle part of the waist is all molded in one piece, so there is no way to articulate the middle section without doing any modifications. Now, modifying that, I think, once again, would not be very difficult to do in this case. The kit is very simple, so doing a simple modification like that, you're not really going to run into a lot of resistance of some more complicated parts that you'd find in a newer kit, but I think you don't really need that articulation for this kit. Again, this is a kit that is not really, you're not getting this kit for outstanding articulation. You can add that to it, certainly, but I think when you're getting this kit, you know what you're getting in for. You're getting it for just like doing some relatively static poses. The front skirt armor is the kind that is just all one piece here, so that's going to be able to move up about like that. Side skirts are going to be able to move out a little bit. The back skirt is fixed. There is a thing here in the back skirt that you're able to fold down to hold the bazooka. It's really hard to get to because you can't pull off the top, or you can't really pull off the backpack very easily to get to that. So you kind of have to use one of the weapons or something. I'm just going to use our heat hawk here, and even with that, it's kind of hard to get that out. You might have to use some tweezers or something. So that's kind of annoying. There's not really any easy way to get that part to flip. Oh, there we go. I kind of got it by pressing that lower part, but it's really not easy to do if you don't have any fingernails. Anyway, that part flips out there. The legs are just attached via a ball joint, so they're not going to have any rotation there at the top except for just like that. So fair amount. Wish it was maybe a little bit more seam line there on the front and back of the thighs, as that's just two pieces that sandwich together. Same thing for the lower leg here, seam line on the front, seam line all the way down the back. There we go, looking a little bit better. This, again, the energy cable mounts in there same way as recent kits do actually. You just put the top in first and you have to bend the leg, put the lower part in, and then straighten it out, and it's kind of stuck in there like that. So for the knee, we do get a pretty good range of movement here before that comes out of the polycap. It's going to go just about 90 degrees, a little bit more than 90 degrees I think before it again pops out of that polycap, but you can get a pretty good range there. The feet, this is a really cool way that these feet are designed. The joint here for the ankle armor, you can make the feet do something all the way like that, which obviously is ridiculous. You're never going to actually use that, but just having it like that and just the way that gimmick works, it does kind of make it so you are able to pull the feet out really far if you want to, like that. Going down, they actually go down pretty far as well, which is kind of nice. Then side to side is just a little bit, but anyway, in just a standing pose, they are going to be just pretty normal like that. Now underneath, we don't have any sort of hole for plugging this onto an action base, so we will just have to use like that kind of like fork style action base connector. Also under the feet, you'll notice is all nice details there, no hollow spaces under the feet, so that's definitely some points for this kit as well. Now let's get into the well, I didn't mention about the shield, but there's not much to say. Just two pieces there, inner and outer part, and it's attached onto the shoulder via a ball joint there, so that's going to move around like normal. The backpack as well, nothing really too much to say about that as it's very plain. Alright, so now onto the weapons. So for the different hand options we have for this kit, on the kit there you can see I've got just holding hands. Then we do also have trigger finger hands, one for the left, one for the right. They're pretty basic, yeah, kind of nice. The standard Zaku machine gun, a little bit different version. Obviously every HG kit, the Zaku machine gun seems to be almost the same, but just slightly different. Here you can see the back is definitely a different shape there. Front handle does move side to side, and the camera also moves up and down. Then we have the Zaku bazooka. Again, front handle moves up and down, camera moves up and down. No stickers for the cameras on these. The back handle, though, does not move backwards and forwards. So holding this in hand, I think, is going to be a little bit more difficult than the modern HG kits. Then we have our Magella top cannon. This is just like the cannon off the top of a Magella tank here. Pretty cool weapon, though. I like this weapon quite a bit. It's actually meant to be held, the main handle is meant to be held in the left hand, which is just makes it kind of different than usual, and the right hand is holding it on the side. So it just has a little bit different feel to it, which I think is quite nice. In terms of the size, you can see it's pretty good size too. It's not quite as tall as the kit, but just standing on the ground it comes up to about the chest of it, so it's a pretty good size cannon. Then we have our new Heat Hawk for this kit, a much larger style Heat Hawk. In terms of like the actual handle, it's not really too much different, but the blade is much larger blade here. So this is all just molded in gray. If you wanted to have it totally color accurate, you will have to do a lot of painting on this. Then we have this one little piece here, which is going to be a connection piece onto the side skirt, where you're able to hold this. Now, how this fits onto here, you can see this kind of circular top of the circular part at the top. This kind of feeds down into there like that. And then that's stuck in this connector. Now to connect this onto the side skirt, just pop it on there like so, and then you can mount that onto the side skirt like that. So that's it for this kit. Alright, so here you can see that this is pretty much going to be the extent of how high you can get that bazooka up over the shoulder. Just without that handle, without that main handle of bazooka being able to fold forward like we expect on the more recent HG Zaku kits. Unfortunately, it does not, and so that's going to be about the extent that you can get that. But one thing that I think you'll notice here is that although this kit is limited in its articulation, and you're not able to get anything like really super dynamic out of it, I think even getting just some simple, cool action poses is definitely possible with this kit. I mean, it totally depends on your aesthetic taste. If this kind of old school style Zaku is appealing to you, but if it is, I think these kits are definitely still looking pretty solid in terms of just being able to do some nice simple poses like this. So definitely, looking pretty good so far. And here you can see, due to that nice articulation of the shoulders being able to come out nice and far in the front, we're having no problems getting both hands onto this Magella cannon there. Again, I really like the just fact that the hands are switched up from the normal, with the left being where the right usually is and the right usually where the left is, like that on the gun. So it just makes it a little bit kind of interesting gun that we're working with here. And one other thing that I did want to mention to you guys is that I did film a speed build video of me snapping this kit together, but unfortunately something happened with the GoPro video file, so I don't know what, it just totally disappeared when I sort of downloaded the video from the camera to my computer, and then the video was just not there, it was just gone. So sorry you guys couldn't see the quick or the speed build of me snapping this, but again, I will be trying to do some more speed build videos for you guys when I can in the future, so stay tuned for those. So ultimately, before we move on to some comparisons here, I think it's a great kit for being, what it is. If you're into that, again, if you don't want a whole lot of detail, you don't want a whole lot of articulation, you just want a nice, cool looking, cheap HG Zaku kit, then this is definitely one option that you can go for. Now, one thing, unfortunately, about the bazooka, holding the bazooka on the back skirt like that, it doesn't really hold it that well. I've found it's mostly kind of a balancing act because it just doesn't really fit into that part very well. I think they just hadn't Bandai kind of figured out a cool feature there, but they hadn't quite perfected it yet. So unfortunately, that's not too great, but everything else on this kit pretty much works fine. I was worried a little bit about being able to hold that Zaku machine gun. Just one is worried because of that wrist joint here, or the wrist of the hand is not bent. So I was worried if like the back of the rifle was going to be getting in the way, but as it would appear, it is not getting in the way at all. So everything's looking pretty good on this kit. So let's take a look at some comparisons here before we wrap up. Alright, so here you can see, along with our Garma Zabi Zaku here from 2002, we've got the Zaku 2 from Gundam Thunderbolt, as well as the Zaku 2 from Gundam The Origin, both of them much more recent kits, about 13 years. I think the Zaku 2, I think the Thunderbolt kit maybe came out, I think that maybe be 12 years difference, anyway, 12, 13 years difference. You can see the Zaku from 2002, the Garma Zabi Zaku, they're obviously going to be the very far and away loser there when it comes to just surface detail. It's got vastly much less detail than the other two. In terms of articulation, it's also going to be definitely the loser. In terms of size, you can see actually the two other Zakus are the Zaku 2 from Thunderbolt is going to be definitely quite bulky there. The Origin Zaku, though, looking a little bit small in comparison, just slightly smaller in its kind of overall proportions. It's definitely more trimmed down, but it's definitely the most detailed and probably the best articulated out of the bunch. Now, in terms of seams as well, I think all of them definitely have them. Which one will be the best? I'm not sure, because they all really, for the most part, have most of the same seams. The Origin is probably going to be the best version. The Thunderbolt kit probably has a little bit more in terms of seams compared to the Thunderbolt. But overall, I mean, it's just aesthetic choice. So if you're into the aesthetic look of the really older kit, then, there's definitely pros for that as well. It looks really cool. They're all just different, so, choose whichever one looks good for you. Hopefully this video was helpful or at least entertaining for you guys to check out something older. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this video, guys. So if you do have any other questions or comments, leave those down below. A lot of people have been requesting a lot of older kits for me to try to review for you guys, either asking if I have them or if I'm planning to review them, or asking me to review them. I will listen to you guys' requests, but if I don't have the kit, I'm not going to go out and buy it just to review it, especially if it's a kit that I'm not really all that interested in. And if I have the kit, I always pretty much have a steady stream of stuff to keep me busy, so it's kind of harder to go back and revisit kits, older kits like this. This was just a kind of rare circumstance that I just happened to have a little bit of free time here between other stuff. And it's still not even particularly free time, but I just had a small chance to grab this kit and do a review, and it seemed fitting with all the Zaku kits we've had out recently. So I will try to do older kit reviews when I can, but just do keep in mind that I am quite busy. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.